In the history of the automobile, there are these incredible stories of triumph, but there are also stories of, well, loss. And today, we're diving into one of the most frustrating chapters, the story of absolutely legendary engines being forced into retirement. And get this, they weren't replaced because they were bad or unreliable. Nope, they were displaced simply because the world changed around them. This is the story of a battle between an incredible legacy and what we're told is progress. Just think about that for a second. Imagine a world where the brand new thing, the so-called upgrade, just wasn't actually better. A world where something with real character, something vital, was just lost. Well, this isn't some hypothetical idea. For a lot of car enthusiasts, it's a reality they've had to live with. So, to really understand this whole controversy, we have to meet the heroes of our story. And these aren't just lumps of iron and aluminum. These are titans. Engines that carved out their legendary status through incredible design, sheer will, and just bulletproof dependability. And here are our two main characters, representing, really, the opposite ends of the automotive universe. On one side, you have the ultimate blue-collar hero, the Ford 300 inline-six. And on the other, the absolute pinnacle of exotic, high-strung engineering, the original Lamborghini V12. I mean, two engines from totally different worlds, yet they share a very similar and kind of tragic fate. The Ford 300. This thing was an absolute icon of toughness. For more than 30 years, this was the engine that you just could not kill. Its secret? Legendary low-end torque that was available pretty much right off idle. This thing wasn't about going fast, it was about pulling, about getting the job done no matter what. It powered trucks, tractors, generators, even wood chippers, and its beautiful simplicity gave it this massive cult following. It was a truly unbreakable workhorse. And then there's this, the Bizzarrini V12. This was no workhorse, this was a pure thoroughbred. Giotto Bizzarrini designed it from the ground up to be a race engine you could put on the street, and its incredible high RPM scream became the literal soundtrack of the supercar. For decades, this engine was Lamborghini. It was raw, it was analog, and it was an absolute masterpiece that defined what an exotic car was supposed to feel and sound like. Okay, so if these engines were so perfect at what they were designed to do, why are they gone? The answer isn't because they failed. Not at all. Instead, their fate was sealed by these massive outside forces, unstoppable pressures that had almost nothing to do with the power they made or the legacy they built. You see, the grip of regulation just got tighter and tighter over the decades. It started back in the 70s, with early emissions rules messing with engine tuning. Then the 80s brought stricter fuel economy standards. By the 90s, new diagnostic and emissions mandates forced automakers into totally new, way more complex designs. It was like a slow squeeze that was choking the life out of simple, big engines like our Titans. And the real reasons become crystal clear when you just look at the breakdown. A huge 40% of the pressure came directly from emissions rules. But look at this. Almost just as big, at 35%, was corporate cost cutting. It was just cheaper to design one engine platform to fit everything than to keep these special power plants around. So the main reasons they died? Not performance. It was bureaucracy and budgets. And this brings us to the replacements. This is where the story gets really controversial. The car companies brought out these new engines that were, on paper, better in every single way. They were more efficient, more powerful, cleaner, but they were often missing something. They were missing a soul. Let's take the Ford 300 successors, the modular V8s. Sure, they had more horsepower, but you had to rev them to the moon to get it. They completely lost that legendary right-now torque. They traded dead simple repairs for complex overhead cams and engine bays so packed you couldn't even see the spark plugs. Yeah, they were smoother and quieter, but for fans of the old 300, they were just boring. And it's the exact same story in the supercar world. That raw, mechanical shriek of Bizzarrini's V12, it got replaced by exhaust notes that were literally tuned by engineers with laptops. That pure, direct feeling, gone, replaced by 1,000 electronic nannies. A one-of-a-kind heart became just another part in a giant corporate machine. The new ones were engineered to be perfect, but in the process, they smoothed over all the little imperfections that gave the original its entire character. And that's the question that really gets to the heart of this whole thing, isn't it? The car makers gave people what the spreadsheet said they wanted: refinement, quietness, efficiency. But in that process, did they totally forget what makes people fall in love with these machines in the first place? But you know what? This feeling of being let down, it didn't just fade away. The enthusiast community, the people who truly loved these old engines, they decided to fight back, not against progress itself, but against the idea that legacy should just be erased. So this brings us to the most important and probably the hardest question of all. We keep using this word soul, but what does that even mean? It's not something you can measure on a machine or test in a lab. So what is it? Well, this tricky concept of soul, you can actually break it down. It's the engine's unique sound, its acoustic fingerprint. It's the beauty of a simple design that you can actually understand and work on yourself. It's that raw, unfiltered feeling of power that feels directly connected to your right foot. And finally, it's the history, the reputation it built over years and years of getting the job done or winning races. And this is how the enthusiasts keep that soul alive. They fueled a massive aftermarket, creating new parts to make these old engines even better than they were from the factory. They basically invented resto-modding, taking that classic engine and dropping it into a modern car. It's an incredible movement, preserving a mechanical ideal that the industry itself was ready to leave behind. So what does all of this mean for us, right now? This isn't just a fun history lesson. It is a critical warning for the car world, which is standing on the edge of the biggest change it has ever seen. The main takeaway here is this. There has to be a balance. Of course, innovation is important, but when you do it by completely wiping out the heritage and character that people love, you risk losing your most passionate fans. Progress shouldn't mean erasing the past. And if this all sounds a little familiar, well, it should. We are seeing history repeat itself right now. The arguments from back then, simple versus complex, that analog feel versus digital control, they're the exact same arguments we're having today as we shift from internal combustion to electric and from big engines to tiny turbos. The pattern is identical. And that leaves us with one final big thought. Think about the great engines of today. The modern V8s, the high-revving flat sixes, you name it. Which of them has that soul we've been talking about? Which ones are going to be the subject of a future explainer just like this one? And maybe more importantly, are we appreciating their character enough right now before they too are displaced by that relentless march of progress?